characteristic of sattva. On the rajas, on the other hand, if I am rajasic, yes, I can understand, but then my span of attention is very small. I can't keep my attention on an object for a long period of time. And tamas, of course, there is no starting at all. It's very difficult for such people. So these three qualities they have recognized, the Sankhya's have recognized, and the yogis have accepted this. So they look at yoga from this point of view. If you look at yoga from this point of view, a lot of the things they are talking about in yoga become meaningful. Otherwise, we just say, why am I doing yoga? Why am I doing it? I don't have a satisfactory answer. One way of trying to answer this question is to approach the whole thing from the point of view of the three gunas. Okay, now I got these three qualities. So if these three qualities are there, if I'm very very predominantly a tamasic person, my mind is not going to understand anything. I lead a very life. The only kind of happiness I'm able to get is through the senses. I eat a lot, different foods. That only that gives me happiness. Or listen to some stimulating noises, stimulating news, if you want to call it. That would help you. Like that, you need what do you call sensual stimulation to keep yourself happy. That sensual pleasure is needed if you are a highly tamasic person. Whereas if you are a rajasic person, energetic, you want to dominate things, you want to run around, do things, that will help you to make you happy. Whereas a sattvic person can be more contemplative. Sattvic person is able to derive a lot of happiness from his own mind, or his own or her own mind, whatever. They are able to get a lot of happiness, intellectual happiness, and then proper emotional happiness. All these become possible when the mind is in a sattvic state. So they recognize that by and large, if I am able to, if I am able to be a sattvic person, it is going to be good. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita also says. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that if you are a tamasic person, try to become rajasic. If you are a rajasic person, rajas is better than tamas. Okay? Then he says, if you are rajasic, become sattvic. And ultimately he says, if you are already sattvic, Nishtarigunyo Bhavarjuna, go beyond all the three gunas, which is what Patanjali Yoga Sutras are. Now, these are the three qualities. Bhagavad Gita talks about, everybody talks about, but nobody tells us how to, transform oneself from basically a person who has got an undercurrent of sattva, tamas, to become a person who is rajasic, or a person who is rajasic to become sattvic. These things are not clearly mentioned in most of these texts. Of course, you can infer something here and there, but then there is a systematic approach, a system by which if you are a tamasic person and you are a rajasic person, you can become a sattvic person. It is not easy. That's there. One thing we got to understand, as I told you, if you are in that particular group, you don't change. You continue to operate the same. Because all your activities are rajasic. The rajas feeds on your rajasic activities. You maintain your rajasic tendencies. You are not able to get out of that group. So that is why, supposing when I'm a 3-year-old child, I used to throw tantrums. 3-year-old. Then when I become 7-year-old, my parents don't do anything about it. When I'm 7-year-old, I become an angry child. When I'm 12-year-old, I'm an angry young boy. 17, 18 years old, I'm an angry teenager. Then I become 25, 30, I'm an angry adult. When I become 70, I'm an angry old man. Nothing changes. This is what will happen. If nothing is done, this is how, because my mind is operating the same group. It cannot change. Likewise, if you are a sattvic person, but at the same time what happens is over a period of time, there are some people, there are some changes that take place because they are able to change the way they go about, but that is very difficult to do. And by the yoga is supposed to be a system, which if systematically practiced, it will be able to transform a tamasic person to a rajasic person, and transform a rajasic person to a sattvic person, and transform a sattvic person ultimately into a person who is able to go beyond all the three gunas. This is the main approach of yoga. What does yoga do? It transforms. So that is why the Yoga Sutras talk about 3 mental transformations. between a person who is, who is not a yoga, he is not a yogi, and a person who becomes yogi, the first transformation takes place. The first transformation takes place when I am able to, what you call, reduce my rajas and tamas. If I am able to reduce my rajas and tamas, I told you rajas is what? Fickleness of the mind. What is tamas? Laziness of the mind. If these two things are going to dominate my mind, my personality, I got to do something to change it. How do I do it? I practice yoga. What practice? What aspects of yoga I practice? I practice two important steps in yoga called asana and pranayama. So that is why they are kept very early in your asana, yoga practice. If you practice asanas regularly, they say asanas will help you to reduce the dominance of rajas from your system. A regular practice, again, asanas should not be practiced as, you practice your workouts. There are certain unique rules for practicing asanas. If I practice asanas as I do an aerobic exercise, it is not considered to be the right type of exercises, physical exercises that will help you to reduce rajas. You see the point? Any kind of physical activity will not reduce rajas. Any kind of physical activity will produce more tamas. That's what it does. That is when you work hard, what happens? The system produces more toxins, more tamas is being produced. But yoga is such, the way they have the way they have developed the yoga system, by combining your movements with your breath, they are able to say not only use up a lot of accumulated rajas, but they are also able to see that tamas doesn't accumulate in you. These are so asanas. The way asanas are to be practiced must be practiced. Keep in mind that this should help me to reduce rajas and not accumulate tamas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this is another. That is why in asana practice there is a big difference between asana practice and workouts. When you do workout, you produce a lot of, you lose a lot of calories, and then a lot of toxins are produced in the body. And by the time you do the workout, you feel very tired, and then you would like to go to sleep. Whereas in yoga practice, they say when you practice asanas properly, properly with that, you are not supposed to feel drowsy at the end of it. You are supposed to feel fresh. So asana practice reduces rajas. Asana practice reduces rajas. But then when you practice asana, as I mentioned to you, it will reduce rajas. But then you must also tackle the other guna, which is tamas. When you practice asanas, what happens? Rajas comes down. But then there are two other gunas which are waiting on the wings. Waiting the wings. So the space which is vacated by rajas, my mental space that is vacated by rajas, will now be taken either by tamas or sattva, whichever is dominant. Supposing, I have not done anything to, so what do? I don't do anything about sattva per se, but what I try to do is I try to reduce the effect of tamas immediately after I reduce my rajas. That is supposed to be done by pranayama. In fact, if you look at the Hatha Yoga Pradeep, the Yoga Sutras, it says tatakshiyate prakasha avarana. What is the benefit of asana, pranayama practice? If your pranayama practice is done, kshiyate prakasha avarana. Avarana means the covering. The veil I mentioned to you. Prakasha means the sattva or the clarity. My clarity is completely, covered by this tamas. So what should I do? I must remove this. I got the capacity to see everything, understand everything. I am not able to see because all my cells are dominated by tamas now. If I can remove that, that's why we go to sleep, So that it gives time for the tamas toxins to be removed from the system. So pranayama is supposed to do that. Tatakshiyate prakasha avarana. Once these two things are done, if I am able to reduce rajas, and also immediately after that work towards reducing the tamas produced by during the earlier activities, then my mind becomes sattvic. Okay. So that is why. But then what happens? You go back and do all the activities again. You develop. This is one thing. So what is it we are trying to do? We are trying to reduce the rajas and tamas. I am making it very difficult. Okay. When I am able to reduce the rajas and tamas from the system, it is only the systemic rajas and tamas that is reduced. Systemic rajas, I am a system, And this particular system, has got a lot of rajas and tamas. Then I practice asana and pranayama. It doesn't go away in one day. It takes time. It takes time. Over a period of time, you will find that rajas and tamas will surely go down, no question about this. Just like it takes long time to do it, it is bound to work. When I practice the asana and pranayama regularly the way they are supposed to do, then over a period of time my rajas and tamas from my system will come down, which I call it as the systemic rage. But then at the same time, because I am not in the Himalayas completely cut out from the society, we are all having friends, we go out, we eat out, we talk to other people, some people are sattvic, some people are rajasic, some people are tamasic, So by our interaction with the outside world, people, objects, supposing I take a highly rajasic food, the food goes into me and then it is going to, make myself more and more rajasic. Likewise, I hear sounds which are rajasic. It is going to affect my system. So we call it ahara. Ahara means whatever you take from the outside world. Usually ahara means the food that you eat, but here ahara refers to everything that you take from the outside world. So if whatever I take from the outside world is highly rajasic, now I am going to take more and more rajas from outside. So even though I do my asana and pranayama and try to get rid of the rajas and tamas from my system, I am allowing my senses to absorb rajas and tamas from the outside world and dump it into me. So what happens? All the hard work I have done, supposing you go and work in the gym for an hour and a half and then say I have I've been able to expend 1,000 calories and then come home and eat something which is 1,500 calories. It's gone. All the hard work you have done, it's very simple. I have done hard work. I have done asanas and pranayama, keep on reducing the rajas and tamas. But at the same time, I take a lot of rajas and tamas from the outside world, and that way it is done. So the yogis, they said that okay, it is not sufficient to reduce your systemic rajas and tamas. You must also take care to see that you don't take rajas and tamas from the outside world. You don't have to fight with the outside world, but at the same time you have to be choosy. Choosy. Yeah, you got to pick and choose. You can't just take anything from outside and take it to your system. So they said, okay, let us try to find out a system by which I will be able to regulate the rajas and tamas from the outside world. And they developed a system, in place called the Yama Niyamas. Are you familiar with the Yama Niyamas? No.
Yes.
Yama Niyamas. There are certain rules, certain dharmas for a yogi. Like ahimsa, satya, steya. You are familiar with that. So they said if you practice the Yama Niyamas and then practice asana and pranayama, Yama Niyamas will take care to see that you don't take anything rajas and tamas from outside, the minimal quantity, and then you are also working very hard to remove the rajas and tamas from your own system. Then what happens? Over a period of time, rajas and tamas come down and there is a change in the personality. A person who was previously a rajasic or a tamasic person now becomes a sattvic person. Okay, this transformation is supposed to be achieved by yoga. How is it possible? It is possible only when we take the twin actions. Practice Hatha Yoga, Asana and Pranayama on one side, and then take care of the outside influence by resorting to Yama Niyamas. So this system, they said, okay, you practice Yama Niyama, then practice Asana, then Pranayama. They put them all into a system so that, I will have a watertight system so that I will slowly become a yogi. Okay, once I practice asana, pranayama, then the next thing they said was pratyahara, because the senses have got the tendency to take you back to the outside world very easily. So at least during a period of time, they wanted you to practice pratyahara after pranayama, close your senses. Sometimes you close the eyes, ears, etc., symbolic and also practical. And then you sit like this, watch your breath. The senses are not going to drag you out. Over a period of time, they also start behaving. Like that of a yogi. Now we got all these things in. Now what do? Now my mind is very sattvic. My mind is sattvic. You know why? I have just removed a lot of rajas and tamas from my system, and I am very careful about not. If I want to diet, if I want to reduce weight, I not only do a lot of exercise to reduce my weight, at the same time I don't eat too much. If I do both, I should lose weight, isn't it? Likewise here also, you are able to reduce rajas and tamas from the system of asana, pranayama practice and yama niyama observance. So that once this is done, then what happens? My mind is sattvic. That is not sufficient. I want to strengthen the sattva. I want to strengthen the sattva. That is, I should become, what do you call, I should become, the sattva should be strengthened. Why should we strengthen the sattva? If we don't strengthen the sattva, then what happens? The other two gunas will become slowly creep into your system and they become dominant and they are going to take you back. So I want to completely, completely go away from an earlier tendency of being a rajasic or a tamasic person. I want to strengthen sattva, and then they came out with this procedure called dhyana or antaranga sadhana, the internal practice. That's where meditation comes in. So what does it mean? If you want to meditate, you must know why you want to meditate. The fundamental thing that is expected of meditation is to strengthen your sattva. You keep it in your mind. Then it doesn't matter what you meditate upon. That is why the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali doesn't say what you meditate upon. First of all, develop this tendency to develop your sattva. When sattva develops, what happens? What was the problem when rajas and tamas was dominant? When rajas and tamas were dominant, I was not able to focus my attention. When the rajas was dominant, I know you started by saying that the mind is not able to remain focused on an object. Now I brought tamas, sattva is there, so sattva will be able to help me to remain focused on that. So you see many people, some people are able to focus very well, some people don't focus very well. The reason these people say, yes, such a person is sattvic, so the mind is able to concentrate, whereas the other person is rajasic, it is not able to. So what can I do? You can do something about it. Try to reduce the effect of rajas. How can I do that? Practice asana. What about tamas? Practice pranayama. Is it clear? So these are that is how this system is. The system has got a reason why we have got to practice asana, why we got to practice pranayama, why these yama niyamas are there, not just sort of moral, it's good to be practice ahimsa, it is good, but there is a definite purpose of putting the yama niyamas in that, in the beginning stages. Okay, now once you start meditating, what happens? Right, now even meditation in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, they have, they have systematically explained what meditation is all about. So, in the first stage of meditation, what they say is, what is it you are lacking? I am not able to concentrate. That is why I have started practicing yoga. Forget about the spiritual aspects of it now. First of all, I will try to see, can I make my mind, my mind be able to remain focused on something. So I have done hard work. I have done a lot of asana, pranayama. I have been very careful about practicing yama niyamas. I don't tell anything, any harsh words. I don't hurt anybody's feeling. I don't take anybody's property. I am very careful about my habits. All these things I have done. Why have I done? So that I will be becoming a more and more sattvic person. Once how do I strengthen the sattva now? My mind was constantly going from one object to another. That is one thing. Or sometimes what happens when somebody says something, my eyes switch off. These two tendencies I already have. I want that to be reduced. So what do? I start. Patanjali says in his Yoga Sutras, okay, you start bringing your mind to the same object. Normally what happens to the mind? It shifts from one object. You remember the example of a chain of thoughts, you go shift from one to other, and then